Hey everybody, I'm on with my friend, Dr. Anna Cabeca, the girlfriend's doctor, to talk about keto-green, hormones, fat loss, longevity, fasting. We've got so much to talk about. We have less than an hour, but I'm so happy to have you on the show today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to see you, Debbie. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for allowing me to accessorize for our podcast. I got a dress on and my jewelry, staying at home every day. It's just, you got to have purpose to get dressed up a little bit more.
Oh, totally. I am in a dress as well, dressed up for you as well. I do have my black sports socks on though.
I have bare feet on, so sorry. I love listening to you at conferences. Talking about hormones is something that I've been very fascinated by, learning about how hormones and fasting and keto and bioindividuality, and as a nutritional therapist and FDM practitioner, really learning more about how we are all so different and how there's not one size fits all approach. And you are coming up with this Keto-Green 16 book that I was lucky enough to get a copy of before it comes out, and just really always searching for answers for myself because of hormones and balancing. I'm 48. I know I'm premenopausal probably, and it's just like, trying to get answers and get results is really a struggle for females and female athletes. So let's go back a little bit and talk about your purpose, passion, and mission.
Yeah, well, also just on that note is why you're struggling, why so many people are struggling is number one, you look healthy, you're
Mhm.
energetic, you compensate well, right? You're a
Yeah.
go-getter and go-giver. And those are things that, create the semblance. Oh, well, she can't be really doing bad, right?
Yeah.
And not understanding how it feels on the inside, how we
Yeah.
can look like we got it all together on the outside and just feel like, oh my gosh, like I am just super gluing it together here on the inside, and how that can feel. And that was really my story too. I mean, I went from healthfully running to companies, a medical spa, and a family, to being devastated, being plunged into early menopause, infertility at age 39, failing the highest doses of injectable infertility meds with zero ovarian response. And here I am, a board certified gynecologist and obstetrician, help so many other people get pregnant, help so many other people heal their hormones. And I was struggling and I couldn't help myself. At that point, my doctor's bag was empty, Debbie. And that led me on a journey that took me, honestly, around the world. I took off my medical practice for over a year. Dr. Deborah Shepherd came in as an angel and took over my medical practice. And I traveled around the world, homeschooling 2 kids along the way, of which I swore I would never homeschool again.
Mhm.
But here I am homeschooling a 12-year-old right now, 53 with a 12-year-old. And she's actually, to be honest, homeschooling herself right there in the next room. And so then that journey, not only, with that was kind of like the spoiling the surprise that at age 41, I naturally conceived this now 12-year-old. So reversed infertility, reversed early menopause, and transitioned my life and my medical practice, and then further fine-tuned as the ups and downs of my journey took me. And that's what has been so powerful, because as physicians, oftentimes we say, you know, we give a diagnosis: you're diabetic, you have hypertension, this is what we need to do to treat you, versus, well, this is what you're presenting with, this is what we need to do to heal you, to remove this diagnosis completely. Like, your insurance company will never cross out a diagnosis that's been in your history. So let's avoid it from getting there. If I see someone who's at risk for something, we're like immediately, like, I project out 10 years, where's this going 10 years from now? And where's this going? And especially, again, with athletes, you guys are healthy, typically eat right, although I know some that don't, typically move right, move well, but then there are hormonal imbalances that brew under the surface where, you often feel that something's amiss, and your guys are so disciplined. You're like, I don't want to go downhill. What do I need to do? Hey, I'm coming early to you before I'm that sick. person with broken bones and, with osteoporosis and incontinence. I'm coming to you now. What can you do to help me? And that is a fair question.
Yeah. And that's why I love your story, because I can relate to it, is that chronic stress and how stress impacts all of us. And that's kind of what my similar passion and purpose is to help people in the athletic world understand that living life as a race and our chronic busyness, our environmental triggers, all this stuff really impacts us from the inside out. And as we are becoming more aware of what health means with the COVID-19, everyone is like, stay home, be healthy, and not to go talk about that, but it's just the importance of taking ownership for your health and knowing what's going on under the hood. Like you said earlier,
Right.
I'm athletic, I'm fit, I feel energetic, but I just did a podcast with the Dutch hormone doctors and went over my labs, and perfect example, I'm low on everything, and estrogens are low, my cortisol. And so really looking at, all right, am I optimizing, living and thriving at my full capacity, or am I running at half level? I'm doing the fasting, I'm doing keto, low carb, but what we're going to talk about today is how, you could feel even better. You could lose
Yes.
weight, you could reduce inflammation, you can have better focus and reduce that brain fog and memory issues, because that's a struggle. And so you don't know that you could be so much better because you're copying someone else's program. You're doing what someone else is doing because they had great results. So let's start with hormones and just how hormones, and then kind of tie that into Keto-Green.
Right. There's a couple points I want to address on what you just said too. Is you said knowing what's happening under the hood, so to speak, knowing what's happening, right? Because you can have a great analogy, a gorgeous looking car, right? All beautiful and spotty, and you look under the hood and it's falling apart, broken gaskets, things like that, right? This is something that patients often told me, because I would insist, if you want me to manage your hormones, you've got to do my detox program, like now essentially my Keto-Green plan or Keto-Green detox plan. And they would say, I didn't realize how bad I was feeling till I started feeling good again.
Yes.
And that's typically, definitely, my athletes fall into that group, performance athletes, competitive athletes. And but I didn't realize how bad I was feeling till I started feeling good again. And that's why I always have that hormone toxicity quiz. In my first book, The Hormone Fix, I put all my questionnaires in there. And in my second book, really Keto-Green 16, releasing May 5th, it's more of that 16-day kick your butt plan, but many other chapters on principles to get us there together and to fine tune. And what you said is about understanding what works for you as an individual versus you as an individual. And that's that discernment process, test, don't guess, checking urine pH and ketones. Something so simple like that is powerful, because that's something we can do at home on a daily basis to improve our physiology. And when we do that, all our labs improve. The big thing, like you're saying too, that I want to address is that, being low on all these hormone tests, right? And it takes more than hormones to fix our hormones.
Yes.
It absolutely takes more than hormones to fix our hormones. And this is where we start asking why. Is it normal aging? Great. We can deal with normal aging, right? Just like we dealt with normal puberty, right? Normal menopause. Menopause is not a disease. Puberty is not a disease, right? We never think of that transition time I'm about to go through again with my soon to be my now 12-year-old. But puberty is not a disease, right? So sometimes it may look that way if their hormones are not balanced. If anyone needs tips on helping children through puberty and early adolescence, as far as girls go with cycles and moods, I've got it down, 4 daughters down. All right. And so we nip that in the butt right away. And what a difference it makes, right? What a difference it makes when their hormones are balanced. And you see that in a young teenager, young adolescent, and how empowering that is for them. The same for us in this menopausal transition. The length and duration and the age of this transition is different for each of us, but there's some ballpark information just because of our natural hormonal changes that are happening. So I love that analogy of looking under the hood. And always, right? I always tell clients, some people take care of their cars better than they take care of their own body, right? Their usual maintenance, usual oil changes. I mean, when was the last time you had an oil change? When was
Yeah.
the last time you did a detox program? When's the last time you did a fast? And I know you do all that. So that's just a hypothetical
Yeah.
question, but that low on everything. Now, again, that can be part of normal aging, but it's often because there's a robber in the picture, a
Mhm.
thief that is stealing your hormones. And this is where that huge lifestyle component comes in. So in my books, I say it's 25% about what we eat, 75% about everything else.
Yeah.
So that's what makes this, the plan successful. It's not just about what you eat. And so that kind of that low on everything, we think, well, who's that robber? Who's that thief? Right?
Yeah.
Stress,
Yeah.
cortisol, stress. One of the major hormones, cortisol, that is our life-saving and necessary hormone. But that put me into early menopause. It's not that my ovaries had somehow stopped working. They were suppressed in preference to life-saving cortisol to keep me alive, so to speak, in the stressed physiologic state that I was in back then. And to let our audience know, we lost our son in a tragic accident. He was only 18 months and 3 days old. I was breastfeeding him at the time, and in just an instant, and he was gone. And the effect of physiology on stress has been a wonder to me ever since, because from that moment, I never had another drop of milk. Anyone listening who has breastfed, if you miss a feeding by even 10 minutes, your breasts are engorged. Never happened. Never, ever happened. Stress is a huge thief. It's a
Yeah.
thief to our happiness. Now there's sustainable, life-saving, all the, pulsatile, intermittent, good stresses, bad stresses. There's life is with stress, but understanding the physiology, that's been my life work, and how that affects us, our relationships, our hormones, our mind, and yeah, and certainly our moods.
Yeah, for sure. But and I know a lot of people have been doing keto the last few years, and it's becoming more popular. And they read these success stories. Other people are losing all this weight, and then people copy what they're doing. And then the new carnivore, the past year or two, is becoming more popular. People are doing no vegetables at all and just doing animal products. And then there's paleo keto, that not having any dairy. So it's so overwhelming out there what to eat. And as FDM practitioner, we do food sensitivity labs. We look at metabolic typing, but ideally we want to burn fat for our main fuel source, improve metabolic flexibility. But what have you found is important for women and men? But as our hormones change, what are you doing with keto that you call Keto-Green?
Yes, yeah, and this makes a huge difference. And also, I've looked into keto carnivore, and certain people that have had such terrible gut upset, right? From what? From glyphosates, from polluted food, from gluten sensitivity, from food sensitivities, from mostly a toxic food source for the most part. I mean, can certainly be a contributor to many of this. I mean, it's very interesting. I have taken a very balanced approach. What's worked for me, and thousands, tens of thousands of women over age 50 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's my target group. So the reason that I came up with Keto-Green, or my keto alkaline approach initially, was because there I was at age like 48, and I started cycling down again. I know what, again, PTSD, I had depression, had aches and pains in every aspect of my body. And then I started spiraling down. In that perimenopause, my period was absent. I had this brain fog, irritability. I was just struggling at that point. And what happened was that I started gaining weight back. Like all of a sudden, I gained 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds basically overnight. And I'd been well over 240 pounds, kept that weight off for nearly a decade. And here it was creeping its ugly self back
Yeah.
on. So I almost could take the irritability with my kids over the weight gain. But that weight gain was just terrible. And so I went strict keto, but I didn't feel good. I not the keto flu. I got what I blame this keto crazy. Like, it was affecting my neurotransmitters. I didn't feel at peace in my body. I didn't feel settled and grounded, and I was more irritable. And so this is where I was like, okay, this is a problem. What are we, what's my next right step? Because why is this happening? And as a researcher, I just started doing, checking, test, don't guess. And just a simple test like checking my urine pH was the test for pennies that gave me the most information. And I checked my urine pH, and I was as acidic as the test paper would read. I was as acidic. So what did that? Yeah, those test strips. I created them to have ketones and pH on the same test strip, so that works really well with a pad in between because of the acid-base interaction. And because at that point I was just like 2 test strips, everything in the bathroom. It was crazy, and with kids running around, I just made it simple for myself and my patients. But what happened was, I that was an aha moment for me. I was like, no wonder I'm feeling irritable. That sense of urinary acidity associated with irritation, inflammation within my body. And so I just focused on the alkalinizers. Let me get more alkaline in my greens, in my nutrition, nourishing with the dark green leafies and the cruciferous for hormone balance and neurotransmitter stability. Because I didn't want to lose my mind, right? I wasn't at the point where I wanted to take an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medicine. And so I had already optimized my hormones as a hormone specialist, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, but had done well with optimizing that. So it takes more than hormones to fix our hormones. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. But here I was increasing the alkalinizer, and I was getting more and more alkaline, feeling better. But I also noticed those mornings I walked on the beach or I did my gratitude journaling, Debbie, I was more alkaline all day.
Wow.
Because that increased my oxytocin, reduced my cortisol. When cortisol is up, when we secrete cortisol, that increases hydrogen ion secretion across the renal tubules. So what that means, it just makes our urine pH more acidic. And like I said, the robber breaks down cell membranes, a causative agent for leaky gut, leaky vessels in general. And so that is an important hormone to get in check right away. And so that was part of my a discovery process, creating this keto alkaline, now Keto-Green approach. And I'm always like, what's the smallest steps I can take to make the biggest difference in my life, right? What are the smallest steps I can take to make the biggest difference? I'm all about efficiency. And that's how I really, fine-tuned and created my programs.
So just want to add in there for a moment, just talk about, it seems like a good time to talk about the pH balance and what acidity, alkalinity means, and what's wrong with being too low or too high in the optimal levels we're looking for.
Yeah. So higher. So think of a urine pH of 7 as being neutral. Now, we're not talking about blood pH. We are talking about urine pH, which is another vital sign, just like your weight, your blood pressure, your pulse. It tells us a lot about how you and your body are interacting with the environment, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, relationally. So the higher our urine pH is, above 7, 7.5, 8, this is associated with a decreased.
I have my glasses on. Hold on.
Yeah.
So decreased. Sorry to interrupt. So 7.0 you're looking for?
Ideally 7.0, 7.5. I'm happy when we get it there. I'm very happy when we get it there. And as the research has shown, that is associated with healthier bones, healthier brain, healthier breast, decreased risk of cancer, and decreased risk of diabetes, hypertension, metabolic diseases. All of that is associated with a high, those benefits are associated with a higher urine pH. And a lot of that has to do with how we nourish our body through the food we eat, the thoughts we keep, the movements we make, and the sleep we get.
Key parts I keep talking about is sleep and gratitude journal, especially with our new, could be possible normal living, is, really taking care of the self-care elements, I think, are so important to reducing stress. But, you know, like you said, beach walks, writing, meditation, breathing exercises, infrared sauna. I've been doing, I think you have a Sunlighten as well, because I saw you were on their blog, and just enjoying that time. But you're finding that really would help your alkalinity levels by having the oxytocin hormone increase in
Oxytocin.
said it wrong.
Yeah.
To have that right balance of the hormones.
Yes. Yeah. That is so true. Yep. And this is a great image of, you know, just looking at how our hormones are changing as we age and what's happening and why it's important to hit that state of ketosis using ketones for fuel. So when we talk about keto, what I'm referring to is getting into a state of ketosis using ketones for fuel over glucose. And this is important to watch and measure as you're, you know, fine tuning your body. It really is. So as we age, like our DHEA hormone in both men and women starts to decrease really in our, you know, 20s, definitely in our 30s, we start to get a decline in DHEA, one of our adrenal hormones that supports our bones and our brain and our libido. And progesterone starts to decline mid to late 30s. And that's a pretty sharp fall off, as we know, because of a declining ovarian function. So there's an internal clock going on that there's that time frame where we're really dropping in progesterone. Progesterone is needed to make cortisol. So here you run into this, as progesterone declines, we also decline in DHEA, estrogen, and testosterone as well. So we start to have this drop off. Now, what's really interesting is that it is a perfect storm when we add in these hormonal shifts to a state of stress.
Yeah.
Because again, cortisol is made from progesterone. So we further deplete our progesterone. So anyone listening who, just because of stress or anxiety or fear over the uncertain times that we're experiencing in this coronavirus pandemic, is, you know, if you're having more PMS, more irritability, or you're having breakthrough bleeding, or you're having hot flashes, again, menstrual things, or or cravings, anxiety, depression, difficulty sleeping, this is that perfect storm that's affecting you. And I'm going to show you how to reverse this. But that's really important to understand. It's not just in our thoughts. I can't just think ourselves better without healing our physiology. So we have to heal the underlying physiology in which this is occurring. Now, what's additionally very important to understand is that our brain uses these symptoms I just discussed. Oh, I forgot to mention the one that I usually tell clients: if you only hate your husband or boyfriend 2 weeks out of the month, it's more likely your hormones than it is your husband or boyfriend, although I'm sure he is to blame too. But anyway, just that note, because our behavior is you know, physiology drives our behavior. So we really want to heal that. We want to heal that and balance it. Important thing to note here, look at that again, that top, you know, if we think of that sharp decline in progesterone, there's a sharp decline in the progesterone, and again, estrogen, et cetera, will follow. But at that same time, during this time period, 35 to 55, this is a period of I call it neuroendocrine vulnerability. Neuroendocrine vulnerability. It's reported in the literature as neurologic vulnerability, but it is beyond neurologic. It's neuroendocrine vulnerability. Many of the symptoms I just said, other than the gynecologic symptoms, those are neurologic symptoms. It's anxiety, depression, decreased sleep, right? All of those have a hormonal component as well. So neuroendocrine symptoms. This is also relating to how our body uses fuel for energy. And how our body uses fuel for energy. So our brain uses glucose preferentially. It is the quick fix. We use glucose. You guys, you know, as athletes will, you know, give yourself an additional source of glucose when you're training. But our brain uses glucose preferentially as energy. But it is an estrogen dependent process. So if we, you know, switch to the next slide, and for those who are watching, you're able to see some of the graphs that I mentioned here. The next slide. And what we see is that, oh, is there not my other graph in here, Debbie?
Maybe not.
Okay.
We'll
I didn't feel,
visualize it.
we'll visualize. Okay. Yeah. So we can go back, but, so in this book that you're sharing, and we give a link for people making keto work for women over 40. There's a graph looking at our hormone shifts, and that's just a beautiful visual to understand. But if we look at that dip in that progesterone level, I want you to imagine how our brain utilizes glucose for fuel. That similar dip is during this time period from 35 to 40, 45. So because the utilization of glucose for fuel in our brain is an estrogen dependent phenomenon. So we say gluconeogenesis of the brain is estrogen dependent. I believe, again, because progesterone is declining so sharply, and it is a precursor hormone for, pregnenolone, progesterone, cortisol, precursor hormones for DHEA, estrogen, and testosterone. So they're all part of this family of hormones. And so we're getting this state of brain starvation, hence many of the neurologic symptoms. For me, those symptoms were manifested in anxiety, irritability, memory loss, brain fog, and I had a fabulous, I would say fabulous, I wouldn't say perfect, I do like to say perfect, but fabulous, memory, visual memory, right? I would say I scored 100% in neuroanatomy lab, probably one of the hardest classes I've ever taken, but just because it was visual, and I love visual. And I was just having such a hard time. I really felt like, oh my God, I'm going into early dementia, right? It was that drastic for me. And so again, we know our normal. And while it may still have been, better than average, according to some tests that I was like challenged on, I know it wasn't my peak. That wasn't my peak performance, right? And so that was just a really big struggle for me. So, but the use of ketones for fuel in the brain is not hormone dependent that we know of. So as I switched to getting alkaline and in ketosis at the same time, the brain fog lifted, the weight fell off. I had this clarity, and I also experienced, I call it energized enlightenment. I had this clean energy, not like a caffeine energy. I had a peace also that surpassed all understanding. Here again, I was at that point, I was 48, spiraling downhill, burnout from my work, burnout from my marriage, burnout from teenagers, and just really struggling and near broke at that time. And to all of a sudden just feeling this clarity and this peace despite, all understanding. And as it says in the Bible, that peace that surpasses all understanding. And I felt that nothing in my external environment had changed, but all of a sudden I could be in my body again and in my mind. And I felt energized from there. I introduced other clients, a small group of my most difficult patients, into the plan and worked with them getting Keto-Green, Keto Alkaline. And that then created my online virtual groups with Magic Menopause, of which we've now had thousands of women, and Keto-Green, the whole Keto-Green plan have had hundreds of thousands of people. So that, and publishing 2 books, which I never have been able to write before this, publishing my second book this very shortly, as well as creating products and programs that have helped so many other people. So on a really mission-driven, fulfilling my passionate, purposeful life at 53 now, and in the best relationships of my life with my family, all under this roof right now. My 4 daughters, 2 female dogs, and me. So
lots of females.
seven females in this house right now, and that's it. Yeah, what a difference, right? What a difference this makes. And you know how passionate I am, Debbie. And you met 2 of my daughters at the conference.
I know. They're so good. I mean, they're so knowledgeable too. You didn't know they're family members working for you. They just sound like experts themselves. So they probably live and breathe this as well, and have experienced Keto-Green changing their own behavior and mental focus and clarity.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's been such a huge improvement. Yep.
So I know we're going to run out of time because I could talk to you for hours, but the Keto-Green, because I've done keto and I feel like, for right now, it's like, okay, my body's changing. I don't like having this extra fat. Plus I can't go to the gym and lift heavy weights. I'm not swimming. And your body starts changing. And I hate people, using the excuse that it's age related, right? It's like blame, I always put the blame on someone else, and it's putting the blame on age. And we don't have to have these changes. I would say we have to embrace the journey as our hormones change. And as you're saying, the hormones decline as we get older, that, looking at the slide of inflammation and all these different things, if we have more acidity in our body, bone health, lean muscle mass, joint pain, I think, hormone cycles, cardiovascular disease, libido. I mean, all those things are pretty common, sadly, for the athletic world, and I'm sure general population. Yeah.
And
the Keto-Green is a different part, because people are if they're doing keto and low carb, but there's a missing part, because I know I was testing myself. I'm acidic. I'm like, well, maybe that's my problem.
Oh, it was so funny, Debbie, because my daughters, I made them do it the other day because I was teaching it for my Facebook Lives on my Keto-Green community page. And what they came to me, I'm like, today I'm a bit acidic. I was fasting. I'm like, that's understandable when we're fasting, but I was at a 6.5, and I really worked to keep it at 7.5. And I'm happy if it's 7 right now. And they're like, Mom, these strips are broken. We're acidic. It didn't change color. I'm like, you're freaking acidic. How much coffee did you drink today? All right. And so that was eye-opening to them too, because I'm like, okay, let's retest every time you use the bathroom, but let's just focus on getting alkaline. And then we did karaoke night and we were all alkaline. Oxytocin, the most alkalinizing hormone in our body. So that's the balance, balancing our nourishment with our activities. And Keto-Green makes a difference. These alkalinizers, these micronutrient dense foods that I've chose, including some fermented foods and digestive foods, and the combination in Keto-Green 16, really simplifying it to 16 key foods that I want people to focus on, makes a difference. There's a vegan and vegetarian plan, but there's the omnivore plan. And it's, again, a quick 16-day plan. So it's not just about what we eat. Again, we are what we eat. We get what we eat, ate too. So the highest quality foods we need, the freshest foods, as much as that's possible, we need. And if not, we need to supplement well as well. And this is what can really make a difference in our lives and in our bodies and in our physiology that makes us feel so well. And because, like you're doing now, you're like, I'm acidic. What the heck, right? That's thought work we have to work on. That's nourishment we have to work on. That's cortisol management we have to work on, right? And that's a big factor for you. We can look at our, thousands of dollars of hormone testing, but until we fine tune, how do I interact with the environment right now? And I will tell you, I was getting kind of pissed off at our government and everything else with this whole vaccine push the other day. And I'm just like, really? We need to focus on fortifying our resilience, getting people outside in nature, increasing our health. Like, there is not a physician I know who's not taking a vitamin right now. And you guys have been against it. The pharmaceutical industry has been, bad mouthing it. And I can't think of one pharmaceutical rep who's not taking a vitamin supplement, who hasn't come to me and said, I need your Mighty Maca. I want your shake. What are you doing? Right. And, it is like all of a sudden, that's where the focus, that is where the focus needs to be right now. And increasing our resilience, because, vaccine's a one-time shot, and the next coronavirus or whatever comes around, we don't have an immunity against it. And the more vaccines we get, one after the other, I write about this on my blog, the decreased efficacy that vaccine will have on your body. So this is incomprehensible to me. At
You
this
sound
level.
like me. I was going off on that yesterday and recorded a whole hour podcast that comes out tomorrow on my show about just we have to take ownership for health. There's no magic shot, no pill. It's you actually doing work on yourself. And it's just, people want that easy Band-Aid approach and just treat symptoms and just don't realize that going back to what's under the hood, are your hormones in balance? What are you eating? How's your sleep? And all these lifestyle factors is just, it doesn't make billions of dollars for the big pharma, I think, is the big challenge. So I think it's our mission to help explain to everyone the why and how, give them the tools. And your program is perfect timing, I think, to launch this book, Keto-Green 16, that I'll show you a sneak peek. You guys can get online.
Yes.
Show notes, but it has 16 of everything. Explain what 16 is.
Yeah, well, and the number 16, 16-hour intermittent fasting, 16 key ingredient types to really help us,
Mhm.
and 16-day plan. Like, how many of you have done a 16-day plan? Very few. I never did
Yeah.
one before. So another reason is I haven't failed a 16-day plan.
Mhm.
So that's good. That's a good track record, right?
Yeah.
And in the shortest amount of time that I could get to get maximum results in this plan. And honestly, it's great to do in groups, your book clubs, your Bible studies, your home groups, your virtual office parties. I mean, definitely bringing this to others, creating community. We have found that to work fabulously. We've done group medical visits with this now virtually, and the focus, concentration, and results and moods of all of the participants were just fabulous, fabulous. So you're right. I'm just thankful that I have this now to offer as a solution and or a resource for everyone. Okay, just look at the combination of the ingredients. Look at how I do the menus. Look at what a Keto-Green plate looks like, because we have 25 colored pages in here our publisher put in. I'm so grateful for that. And and also there's a whole men's chapter in here, because I have many men who are doing the program from my Hormone Fix book, as well as, in our group medical visit. So this is a good plan for all, with, some slight customization here and there, but based on your ability to see what's working for me, what's not working for me, and the aha moments that help you get there and help you stay on course and balance your hormones, balance your physiology, master oxytocin, so that cortisol and insulin, we become more insulin sensitive. That's the plan. The Keto-Green, insulin sensitivity, reset our circadian rhythm, improve cortisol management, and master oxytocin. That is my commitment.
So if people are looking at a video version, we've got one of the slides that you guys I'll put in the show notes how to get this little PDF handout, but the ketogenic diet versus Keto-Green diet, what are some differences? Because our main goal is to teach people to burn fat and
Yeah.
to optimize health and longevity, all that. But what's the difference between the two?
Well, I would say definitely we want to burn fat as quickly and safely as possible. So it's not just about, a high fat, low carb diet. It is not just about that. It's about also, what does that food that we're eating look like, and what are the lifestyle factors? And so with a Keto-Green diet, what we really are also focusing on, so we're getting that insulin sensitivity through lowering glucose, certainly, but the intermittent fasting as well, and no more snacking in this plan, or very limited snacking in this plan. And also, we're supporting our gut bacteria. We're supporting our gut health. We're supporting our body's microbiome. And in fact, the estrobolome, an area, like focused bacteria that help our body or function to either, to detoxify estrogen or recirculate estrogen, creating more estrogen dominance. So I've focused the plan to decrease estrogen dominance, to help support our body's natural balance and a healthy, diverse bacteria, family of bacteria that live within us, numbering a small trillion or so.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's
And
I was studying the Dutch test for FDM program at Stress and Hormones, and it was all about, eating the greens for the detox pathways, phase 1 and phase 2, and our methylation cycle. And I think it makes me curious of so many people doing a strict carnivore diet and, doing nose to tail. I guess
well,
research is not out at the difference in the benefits of why we need greens for our microbiome and our
we are
methylation.
we are what we eat, right? So if we're doing nose to tail, which I think organ meats are great. We used to eat the liver, the hearts, the kidneys, right? We used to eat the brains, nervous, in some delicacy. I often tell the story of my father when he was in the Middle East as a naval attaché at a Bedouin tribe, and he was the guest of honor, and they gave him the eye of the goat as a true honor. I'm like, oh my gosh, high in vitamin A. I mean, helps your brain, helps your eyes, helps your wisdom, right? Like what an honor. Anyway, so that's a funny story. But yeah, he tried to eat and it was like, couldn't take a bite. Couldn't take a bite. Imagine like those big gumballs, you're trying to bite it. It's like, oh man. Anyway, So, organ like thyroid. I mean, now we take thyroid in capsule, we take adrenals in capsule. So there's a good reason. But how did that life of that animal live? Were they grass fed? Like I love there's like some acorn fed Wagyu. I mean, how cool is that? How awesome, right? I don't have access to that right now, but wow, right? And
Yeah.
what are they eating? Are they eating glyphosate from the grass? Is there, what other chemicals are they eating? Or are they getting antibiotics? And we're getting antibiotics. So we really need to look at what we're eating, as well as how they're treated. Are they high stressed? And we're getting that extra cortisol, there's a lot to look at in that. And again, I'm a fan of, wild fed, wild caught, grass fed, free range, all of the best food. I want to eat that best food too. I can eat some of it myself, right? But the health of the microbiome is really important, but also cortisol. I want everyone who's doing that, and there may be a reason. You have a problem digesting foods right now. We want to improve that, right? And the plan is that we do improve that. If you are, and explore with your body, discern what works great for you for the time you're in right now. Now, I would say check your urine pH, check your ketones, check your urine pH. If you're acidic, you're doing harm to your body. If your urine pH is acidic, you're doing harm to your body. And so, what do you need to do in that? If you can't tolerate any vegetables or whatever, which I've not worked with anyone that I've had that situation in, that I wasn't able to improve their digestion, get them to, have a wide variety of greens and vegetables and reduce food sensitivities. So, but when you have to do extra work to manage cortisol and increase oxytocin so that you see that shift in your physiology. And just note, how do you feel when you get there? How do you feel when you get Keto-Green? What does that feel like for you? And journal, write it down. And what gets you there, what keeps you there, what takes you out of that sensation? So how do you, get into the state of this peace, no matter what our external circumstances are, and how impressive that is. Okay.
So I do appreciate your program having clean food, because it always drives me nuts. People doing keto, in different Facebook group pages. I'd be in these keto beginner groups just for curiosity. And how many people are doing dirty foods versus clean, and the importance of that in your program, but also the importance of intermittent fasting and how it's questionable for fasting extra longer fasting duration sessions for women and women with hormone balances. So you talk about clean foods, and then if we can transition into the importance of fasting, intermittent fasting, that 12, 16 hours, and if we should go longer, what do we do with hormones and fasting to be keto?
Yeah. And that is part of, I always try to get clients to be more alkaline first, but I want to work them up to intermittent fasting. And one of the main reasons, Debbie, is that number one, the older we get, the more metabolically conservative we are. And so, meaning it's harder to get into ketosis. It's harder to shift from glucose to ketones, but we are absolutely designed to do this. I talk about that when I talk about the brain and glucose versus ketones for fuel. Women have 2.6 times higher risk of Alzheimer's than men. So we have to shift that. We have to get into ketosis periodically with metabolic flexibility, bump in, bump out, right? This is important. So what I want to emphasize here is that when we are working to balance our hormones this way, the combination of foods, the recipes, and also, becoming more insulin sensitive and stopping those blood sugar spikes and valleys, which again, every time our sugar goes up or we're stressed, our sugar goes up, then insulin goes up, we start spiraling. And these are some recipes that you're showing here. And I'll tell you that for every one of these recipes, and in my program, I've been using the Freestyle Libre 24-hour 14-day continuous blood sugar monitor. So over the last year, on and off, and I just ate about an hour ago. My daughter prepared Keto-Green breakfast for us this morning. So it was a bed of arugula, some chopped cucumber and red peppers drizzled with olive oil, some Himalayan salt, a splash of sriracha, which we like, and we have to make our own, but we haven't done that yet. So a splash of sriracha, and we had some hard-boiled, fried eggs, lightly fried eggs. And so an hour, about an hour later, this shows up pretty much 30 minutes,
Wow.
blood sugar's 94. So that's you see my flat line there? This
Yeah.
is, oh wait, this is being keto green. And then it'll show you the 24 hours of being keto green. And so you can see just really steady blood glucose control.
Wow.
Really steady blood glucose control. And that's, these meals are designed to, to optimize that in the shortest amount of time possible while feeling satisfied, not hungry,
Yeah. Well, that's the
and
key.
detoxing.
Exactly. The key I would say is balance of blood sugar, burning fat for fuel that you feel full, satiated, energetic, happy. You feel good. You shouldn't feel bloated, gas, burping, stomach problems. But, having your body to have time to digest your food properly, and detoxification processes should happen as well. And I think that's part of the benefit of intermittent fasting, is you end up eating in a time restricted feeding window, that 8 hours if you're doing a 16-hour fast, and balance that blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
I love the recipes in there. And if you're looking at the slides, there's some great pictures of it, but talk about the process, the last few minutes here, about the greens, because I know, especially now, we're, ordering stuff online instead of going to the grocery store as much, having one meal or 2 meals a day, I'm trying to work on my microbiome and having more prebiotics, having the greens. I'm working on my hormone balance, so adding your maca. Talk about the keto green shake mix and the maca and why it helps us be more keto green.
Yeah. So this is a Keto-Green shake mix. It has a fabulous array of ingredients in it that are like methylated B vitamins and antioxidants. Some of my favorites, quercetin, and a wide blend of greens and other antioxidants in there for this detoxifying, supportive meal replacement that also has seed proteins in it. So this is a vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free formula. And often, to get those extra, to get high quality protein and 0 grams of sugar, to get high quality protein, some fat, it's a perfect base, or it can be used as a meal itself. But I typically like to use it as a base protein antioxidant and add in some extra fat, some, whatever greens in my fridge, celery, kale, spinach, and or sprouts, maybe some ginger and or cinnamon, depending on my mood. Do I want it savory or sweet? And still have this very great, this substantial keto green breakfast or lunch or break fast. And that's typically what I'll do at some point during the day, or to replace a meal. And so that's a blend, and it has watermelon seed, pumpkin seed, sunflower seeds in it, amidst pea and rice protein. But I really wanted that diversity blend, and also to support our body's detoxification, its fight against inflammation, it's all the things, our metabolism, our mitochondrial function. So that was the design. Like when it's busy, and I traveled a lot, having this for me on the go was really important, and there wasn't anything that I could find equivocal. And so I created it for myself and for my clients. And Mighty Maca Plus has been around for 10 years, recommended by physicians around the world as like their go-to. Like if they always say, if 2 things I want you to leave the office with, Mighty Maca Plus and an omega-3, high quality omega-3 supplement. And I would agree. Mighty Maca Plus also has a maca, again, from the high mountains, 11,000 feet in Peru. We see this beautiful, the high Andes in Peru. Maca grows there. It's indigenous to Peru. Mine is organic kosher maca from Peru. And I've been using the same source for a decade now, and sustainably sourced, and also a combination of 30 other superfoods, including to support our immune system, to support our fight against inflammation, to support our hormone balance and our adrenals. So we have quercetin, resveratrol, green tea extract, and cat's claw herb, and others. Everything we're talking about right now in the fight to support our immune system has been in Mighty Maca for 10 years. And the results we've seen clinically over these years are improvements in adrenal function, improvements in our body's natural production of progesterone, improvements in alkalinization, detox, blood sugar, blood pressure, hormones, hot flashes, weight loss. I mean, we just see this as a result of, and I always say, let me just qualify that with, it's, if you know me, it's never just one thing. It's never just a potion, a program, a pill, a product, right? It's never just that. There's a combination. We are complex. And I encourage everyone listening to be in control of their own health. Don't take what I say, like try and see, how do I feel? How does this make me feel? How am I doing? Discern for yourself. Start again listening to that still small voice, because I guarantee you there are entities out there that do want to think for you. We can't let that happen. Think for and discern for yourself. Thank you.
Yes, amen. So thank you so much. We'll put links in the show notes. And when does the book come out? Where can people get it?
May 5th, and just, at my website at dranna.com, and anywhere books are sold. So definitely pushing my heart out for those small booksellers. So calling your local bookstore and ordering it, and they can leave it outside for you or something, hopefully we'll be able, or deliver it for you. Really supporting our local bookstores, because they definitely give them a call and have them order it for you. We know that we have already released, like this, we're 2-3 weeks out from a release date, and in talking with my publishers at Penguin Random House, they have said there are, I think, an order of 11 or 12,000 already. So the pre-order sales will be great, and we can drive up those orders, and again, spread the word. I appreciate that, Debbie. Thanks for letting me come on your show.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. Check it out, and I'll put everything in the links below the video or the audio version podcast.